Can Shadowlands save World of Warcraft from BFA's wounds? No. Have you seen how big the sword is, Bellular? Are you kidding me? Okay.
Hey everyone, so it's time to do our health check of World of Warcraft. People have been calling the death of WoW and calling that expansions could save WoW for a long time. I mean, probably since its beta got a bit laggy in 2004. Of course, we had the pandas, you know, they got people's knickers in a twist, and I don't just mean the furries. We had Warlords of Draenor, and then there was Legion and BFA, an incredible roller coaster that then broke down a bit, which kind of sucked. And that means that a lot rides in Shadowlands as an expansion, right? It does have a lot of work to do. It does. And like expansions that have came before, there's no shortage of controversy and intrigue from the beta. So today, you are going to learn a lot about Shadowlands. That's what this video
He's going to 100% do an ad here. Like, there's no way he didn't put on a fucking sport jacket not to do an ad.
Allows us to do. You're going to find out where it wins, where it loses, and just what direction World of Warcraft, the big like multi-game project of Blizzard Entertainment, is going to be going in. Also, it's a new month. We are doing a pretty nifty special this time around. It is our 2020 channel pin. Man, these look so good. So there's this. There's also going to be the Demon Hunter pin this month as well. I know, 2 pins. Madness. And of course, art from the art team that I guess I have to show like this because of the shape of my arm. Of course, you can get all of this as well as behind the scenes early access.
That's actually really cool. I like that. That looks really nice. Damn. I would get that if I would get that for my mom. She would like that a lot.
The daily briefing as well over on Patreon, and Patreon seriously does help out what we're doing so much. I mean, hey, we have just commissioned a 3D artist to do something pretty damn nifty that you're going to see in like 2 weeks. I mean, this is a 3D artist who did work for Game of Thrones. It's pretty cool. Okay, patrons, thank you for your support. It is going to make just what we're doing so much better as we head into the Shadowlands, and the rest of the viewers, thank yous too. Okay, with that said, let's get going. In any sort of video like this, the first thing we've got to do is establish our baseline, and that is the state of WoW. World of Warcraft is actually doing extremely well. As per Activision Blizzard's financial earnings reports, it is doing incredibly. World of Warcraft subscribers...
Classic WoW is such a huge thing. It is such a huge thing for WoW. Like, this is, so we didn't listen to this recent earnings call, so this is my first time seeing this. World of Warcraft reach and engagement once again increased wow. Conditions further boosted the franchise's strong trajectory following the launch of Classic last August. Anticipation continues to build for Shadowlands, expansion of Modern Warcraft. Engagement in the franchise is the highest it has ever been at this point, ahead of an expansion in a decade. Wow. Cata? That's more than Cataclysm. So that means that there are more people playing the game now than there were at the end of Wrath going into Cataclysm. I don't believe that. Man, bro, I don't believe that. I know they can't lie, but like, what does engagement mean? Like, does engagement mean subs, or does engagement mean activities done in the game? Because there's way more activities to do in the game now. So of course you'd have more engagement because there's more things to be engaged in. I really wish that they would just tell us how many people play in the game.
Subscribers doubled in the quarter after Classic came out, and well, the previous quarter is the one that ended just after 8.2 launched. So what does that mean? Pretty simple. Classic carried the hell out of World of Warcraft in 2019. And that's the thing, Classic will do pretty great, probably until Naxxramas, which should be later on this year.
Yes.
And I'd say after that, it still will have a decent tail to it, but players will move through it, and they will run out of things to do, because it is a finite game. Of course, Classic TBC will help a lot. There's a lot of rumors, right?
I think Classic WoW will still be relevant for quite a while, because you're going to have a lot of people that are going to want to re-gear other characters and play other things. Classic WoW, a lot of its longevity is based around the fact that people form social connections, and it keeps them tied to the game. And that's one of the things that I think Final Fantasy seems to do a really good job at, is keeping people engaged in the game past the normal date of what it is. Like, I really do feel that's important.
right now, and we can expect that in 2021. And that, I would say, will hold a lot of World of Warcraft interest from 2021 to 2022, just like how Vanilla held it from 2019 to 2020. Then, of course, Classic Wrath will absolutely happen. That'll probably hold us from 2022 to 2023. I think that is basically just almost guaranteed financial success for Blizz for a good amount of time. After that, though, yes, it's possible that there could be some struggles if things don't change in the modern game.
They're, of course, going to do Classic TBC, and they're probably going to do Classic Wrath. Like, the original trilogy of the game, people have so much nostalgia for. And I think that that nostalgia drops off so fast whenever you introduce Cataclysm. Like, Cataclysm, I don't think people give a shit about, because, like, Cataclysm, that was, like, the new world. That was, like, everything in Cataclysm. Like, that's new WoW. Cataclysm, like, there was such a massive paradigm shift from fucking Wrath to Cata. Like, Wrath was one game, Cata was another game. We're not going to get classic Cata. Well, I'd love to see, I'd love to do, like, Tier 11 again. I thought Tier 11 was awesome, but I don't think it's going to happen. But, yeah, classic BFA. Yeah, dude. Can't wait to do Islands again.
What we do know is that the Classic project is a humongous shot in the arm that will work for a good few years.
Absolutely.
World of Warcraft, the business, will be insulated from the quality and the woes of the modern game for years of Classic.
Yes.
But after that, and no matter what, modern World of Warcraft will be what Blizzard will have to rely on. And with it, along with Call of Duty being one of the two main financial pillars of the company.
See, revenue grew 270%, record driven by Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Bro, there it is. Like, Call of Duty was going crazy. Like, Call of Duty is Bobby, dude. See, don't look at him. If you look at him long enough, money in your wallet will disappear. Like, it will literally just, it will go to him. Don't look into his eyes. And so, yeah, it's not a surprise. Like, I'm really happy to see Warzone doing so well.
The state of modern World of Warcraft means a lot for Activision's, well, stock price, and them being one of the hottest publishers in gaming.
Does WoW need saving? Yes.
So if it's doing so well, does World of Warcraft need saving? Is this a totally pointless video? Well, we've got to define success. I would say here, success means growing in terms of users, retaining those users, and of course, driving more revenue from the users that you've got. And of course,
don't you say store mounts, Bellular. I don't want to hear that.
In a growth-driven market, stagnation is essentially failure. Worlds of Draenor damaged World of Warcraft. We actually made a video, the last one in this now two-part series of WoW being saved. We made that in Legion Beta.
It's actually funny. Look at this. Can save World of Warcraft Asmongold. Will Legion save WoW? And I have, will BFA save WoW? And I have, will every single expansion save WoW?
And Legion pretty much did do that. It was a dire state for World of Warcraft at the end of WoD, but Legion got people back. WoD, of course, wasn't just a letdown, it was a heavily marketed letdown, and that meant that people knew. So with Classic helping out, WoW is going to do just fine, as long as it does not have a complete disaster. Modern may need saving for the sake of its own players, but for the next few years, I think that is basically it. So, does World of Warcraft need saving? Well, games live or die by their reputation, and modern WoW's reputation, I think, does need saving. There is a lot of good, there is a lot of bad, and I think that is a little bit of the problem. It's
a lot of bad and a little bit of good, and the reason why it's bad is because there are systems in the game that are implemented that do not respect the player's time. They do not respect the player's investment. They do not respect the player's engagement. They are disrespectful systems that are just simply made to boost artificial metrics that are used to determine the health of the game. Yes, I think this is absolutely Skinner boxes. Yes, basically you're going from one Skinner box to another Skinner box. I'm very frustrated about that. If Blizzard wants players to respect and be positive about the game, Blizzard has to respect the players, and the systems simply don't do that.
It's a surprisingly controversial game, a game that I think makes stumbles that it really shouldn't. And long term for Blizzard, what they need to do is they need to convert classic fans into modern fans. If they don't do that, then Blizzard's most profitable intellectual property will face risk. And
they can't do that. Like, there's just so much difference in the game. Like, you can't do that. They have to do a WoW too, because there's so much that you have to learn in the game. Like, you're gonna have, like, obviously you're gonna have a lot of, I know a lot of people myself personally, like friends of like mine and friends of Zach's, who came back to WoW to play Classic, and then they went and they played BFA afterwards because they liked BFA more than Classic. Like, of course it happens. Of course you have the conversion, and I even have anecdotal evidence for it happening. But the reality is that it's not probably that common, and there's so many like fundamentally different design decisions. It's insane. Like, you can't have like transmog and like mount collecting meta and everything like that, and then expect a TBC player to be like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do.
That is the challenge of Ian Hazzikostas' development team. There was, however, a time not so long ago when we asked ourselves a very similar question.
Yeah. Where Warlords went wrong.
Battle for Azeroth damaged World of Warcraft, but in a unique way, and one that must be contrasted with WoD. At a basic level, Warlords of Draenor fell flat because it didn't offer enough content. It had severe problems, yes, but leveling was great, dungeons were great, raids were great, but it didn't go the distance. Month 1 was fine. Yes, there was a lot to do, and sure, garrisons,
Dude, I had fun playing WoD in my first month of playing the game. I actually had a lot of fun playing it. It was awesome. The problem is whenever the raids came out and like all you needed to do was run Heimdall twice every week, and then that was all you could do in the entire game. Like, it was just terrible, man. It was just absolutely fucking terrible. Like, I don't think that anybody understands like how bad it was. It's just crazy. Like, people forget.
Related players and didn't really live up to their promise, but people still had plenty to do. But that month ended. Patch 6.1 then came along, and it added almost no content of note.
Well, the
Patch 6.2 added an okay zone and a pretty good raid, and that was essentially it. This was an expansion that had, I would say, mediocre systems and good enough content, but nowhere near enough of it, and that meant the players were just not interested in sticking around.
I think that people contrast WoD and BFA, where WoD had really good content, but there wasn't enough of it, and BFA had a lot of content, but it wasn't really good.
Value proposition was not there, and that's the thing. No matter how good that WoD content was, there just was not enough of it for people to actually stay subscribed, so they left. I think it's telling that the most fun version of this expansion was probably when Mythic Dungeons, Valor Points, and Time Walking came in with patch 6.2.3. Importantly though, classes were still simple enough, and borrowed power wasn't really a thing, save the Draenor perks you got while you were leveling, and regular things like class sets. So that's
well, they weren't even really borrowed power, they were just like extra features that you had during that expansion. They were basically just another level of class design, because every single class had all of these perks. Like, I didn't really mind the perks a whole lot, but I do wish that they had like more of like the TBC to Wrath thing, or like, so borrowed power. Well, it's like if you use that logic, every single thing in the game is borrowed power. But like, in my opinion, what do I consider borrowed power? I consider borrowed power like the legendary cloak system that we have, or like the corruption system. I think corruptions are probably the biggest example of borrowed power that I can think of. Whereas like the Draenor perks were just like fundamental like class changes that happened throughout the entire expansion.
It was a pretty solid slice of World of Warcraft, but it was kind of the low-fat version, and there wasn't enough of it. People left, but I think they felt frustrated that they didn't have enough to do, but I don't think they felt like the game was massively fighting them. They just felt it was no longer of interest.
Yeah, they were bored.
And that's where we have to talk about BFA. I do not think that BFA had enough content, but what's different from WoD is that that was really not its big problem. Warlords of Draenor in many cases was a great game for core players, but there just wasn't enough of it, and that's the difference. BFA was not a great game for hardcore players, and it also wasn't a great game for the casual players. They didn't get the promise of warfronts or islands or any of that.
Well, they did get the promise of dominating warfronts because you can't lose them. I mean, to be fair, that is true. Like, Blizzard delivered.
Design changes, of course, damaged all aspects of gameplay, like the GCD. This, of course, impacted WoW's most dedicated players the most. Azerite was far less interesting than Legion's equivalent, and all of this impacted, well, players, regular players. Because as a casual, you could go, you could get your Legion skins, you could faff about that casual stuff.
Dude, I thought that was badass. I remember the day that I did this? I remember back in Legion, I remember this day even that I saved the quest line for the DK and I did it on my stream. And I remember, dude, I had 10,000 viewers doing it. And that was a big deal for me back then. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, man, people love this.
And you'd be fine, but not so much here. BFA was full of so many issues, what in software people kind of call anti-patterns, right?
Yeah.
Designs to solve a problem that end up having the opposite effect, or maybe unforeseen consequences. Azerite punished multi-specking. Azerite punished you for getting better gear because you had to re-earn your traits at the beginning. Reforging also punished you from playing multiple specs. To cut a long story short, Warlords of Draenor had a small amount of content that was pretty fun to do, and you could raid log at the worst case and you'd still have a pretty okay time. But with BFA, there was more content to do, but it was mired in systems that fought against you every step of the way, and that dared you to do things you didn't really want to do.
I bet you won't do 500 islands. Bet you won't do that. And then you got some guy in limits like, oh yeah, you want to bet me that? All right, well, let's fucking do it. And then they sit there, they play it all fucking day, man. Watch me do it. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Warfronts, I don't know, man. Like, BFA, dude, I thought it had so much potential. It really did. Like, I was so happy to do I was so excited for, like, the idea of it, and then every single thing they put in the game just made me less and less excited. That's what it is, man. I don't know what to think. Preheat was limits? Yeah, of course he's running a bunch of 500 islands, man. That guy's strung out. Like, why do you think he gets so pissed off at the other preheat? Like, imagine having to run 500 islands, then finding out somebody steals your fucking name. Yeah, of course he's mad.
What about the non-hardcore players, right? Well, the war campaigns were short and they were not that good. The story was fragmented. It felt like vines. It was rushed through so fast that it skipped through so much lore and never did any of it justice. It's actually quite telling that the expansion's most successful storyline is one that happened almost entirely outside of gameplay, and that is the Saurfang cinematics. Then, of course, cosmetics were worse than ever because of losing tier sets on a class-by-class basis.
Man, like, remember what that dude right there? Look at that. They're like, dude, we get rid of tier sets, but look at this. But look at this. Look, you're gonna get this, man. This looks cool. Look at that. Oh my God. Wow. The plate was cool. Yeah, maybe a little bit. I actually did like the plate set. Dude, I really hope they add back tier sets in Shadowlands, man. Like, it's crazy to think that we're going to play Shadowlands in like 20 days. I'm still not like mentally ready for it. I'm so happy that I'm going to be able to play a new expansion. It's going to be great.
Than ever because of losing tier sets on a class-by-class basis.
That one's
Where Legion
cool.
had loads of tints and things like class mounts, BFA just didn't have anything. No. Ages back, mounts used to be rewards for doing cool, unique reps like Order of the Cloud Serpent.
Yeah.
But BFA just threw so many of them in RNG like islands. And of course, islands and warfronts. They didn't work for anyone, did they? Yes, the point here is that BFA wasn't a game where people...
What do you mean they didn't work? Of course they worked. That's why people did them. How can you say they didn't work? Look at our engagement metrics. Well, let me pull up the analytics here, and I'll show you how they work. See, people did 18 million islands. So how could the islands not work if there's 18 million of them being done? What do you mean? You know, the sad thing is, I bet some people probably fucking think like that. Isn't that a tragedy?
People ran out of things to do. They ran out of the will to do anything in it, right? If you get bored and you don't have an overly negative experience, you'll wander off and you'll maybe think about coming back, as people certainly did for Legion. And that's what happened in Warlords of Draenor, right? If you're like me, you went, you played some Freelancer, you played Mount and Blade. But in BFA, The game was fighting against you so much that many people, many that I know, just quit in frustration. They couldn't take the Titan Forging, the Azerite, the Essence Acquisition, the Corruption. It was all just too much. And of course, because so much time had to be put into getting those systems right, it meant that casual players who don't care about any of that just didn't have that much stuff to do. And even though the likes of 8.2...
Well, they had a lot of stuff to do, but they didn't want to do it. Like, that's the worst thing, is you never want to have somebody feel apathetic, dude. Like, it's always better to give somebody an end point and then have them feel good about, like, hitting that end point than just say, hey, yeah, just keep playing the game. Just keep doing it again. Just do it again. Hey, you didn't do it today. Do it again. There's a bonus today. You know, that's the problem, is like, if you have, like, the thing is, this is always my logic with like getting rid of Titan Forging and why I thought it was a good idea, is that if you quit the game because you finish your gear set, then you can look forward to coming back and doing it again. But if you quit the game because you're bored of trying to finish your gear set, I think quitting out of apathy is 1,000 times worse than quitting out of completion.
We're pretty good. We're still full of frustrating systems.
Yeah.
So that is World of Warcraft's last two failures. And I would say that if Battle for Azeroth happened again, that would pretty much be the end of World of Warcraft's prominence. So,
yeah, probably
what about Shadowlands?
Is Shadowlands better than BFA?
How is
Well, I mean, let's make sure that we answer this question before the game's up, Bellular. Yeah. I mean, it certainly is looking better than BFA. Here's one statement I can make with some degree of certainty, is that Shadowlands is looking better than BFA did at the same point in time. Shadowlands looks more promising than BFA did during the BFA pre-patch. That is true. Like, I think that is true.
Shadowlands better than Battle for Azeroth? That is almost certainly what you want to know from a whole bunch of beta testers, which is us. Well, loot is loot. The death of Titan Forging completely clarifies the correlation between input and output. It is more healthy.
Yep.
They've largely fixed a bunch of things as well, respecting your time, you know. The weekly grind isn't as wild. Renown is capped. Torghast mandatory content is done with pretty quickly. The weekly box gives you options. There's a higher chance of something good being there. That respects your time.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that feeling like players' time is being respected, and as a player feeling like your time is being respected, is just so important. And I think that I think Legion didn't do a very good job with that, with Titan Forging and also with the legendaries. And then BFA just kind of took that and they got rid of the legendaries and they added like 3 other things that were pretty much almost as bad. And that's the way that I felt about it.
And the experimental content. Torghast is genuinely brilliant.
Playing the game,
Islands and Warfronts were not. Then each Covenant has got a cool enough little extra activity. You know, and then you've got the cosmetics of the Covenants. You've got their endgame storylines to do. And on cosmetics, yeah, they do tap into the
those Dark Wings
victories of Legion, albeit not as much in terms of the amount of content to do.
Yeah.
And then if we cover World of Warcraft as an RPG, well, it does tap into many of the victories of Legion with how it does its storytelling, especially the Covenant endgame side of things.
Shadowlands, in many ways, in my mind, does seem like it seems like a successor to Legion more so than BFA. It does. It feels like more of a successor. And I don't really know why. I think it's probably just, maybe it's because of the Covenants and I create like the parallel between the Covenants and the Class Order Halls. But that's what we're looking for. 2 teams, dude. That of course. It's 2 teams.
And then, of course, we've got other things. The revamped leveling experience, that's something BFA did not have. You can have more characters, more instantly engaging gameplay, and a better new player experience. And of course, that means there'll be more characters. So alt-friendliness, it is significantly better.
I also want to say Exile's Reach, for example, was really good. Almost everybody has been positive about Exile's Reach. The only negative thing I heard about Exile's Reach is that there's a black character there, so people didn't like it because of that. But other than that, people have loved Exile's Reach.
Many important things are bound in account, like the legendary recipes. Yes, they did actually listen to those things. But there's things they maybe didn't listen to. I've just told you how this expansion is besting BFA, but we do have to talk about how it falls into the same traps of BFA. Borrowed power. right? Caused problems back then, it will cause problems in the future. Azerite suck for multi-spec. Covenant Power and Soulbinds also pretty much suck for multi-spec players. And that 1%er thing, that this is about min-maxing, that's absolute bull. It's not even...
It's absolute motherfucking stupid ass 950, 350, every percentage above 100. That's a horse motherfucking shit. That's what it is.
About the numbers. It's about fun. It's actually about the choice and building your character, because trust me, an ability that's fun for one spec is probably not fun for another one. That's generally how it goes. And that is a rough thing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, some of it's personal preference. Perhaps you like one Covenant ability for one spec. But maybe you like another Covenant ability for another spec. Tough luck. The negatives of this are not apparent on the beta because it's not a real-world scenario. And while the WoW devs can spin out their philosophical musings, at the end of the day, I think we all know what's going to happen when the rubber hits the road and the players have to engage with this. And this is, of course, not covering bizarre things like the conduit cooldown energy charge system, where they basically had to resort to mobile game-like mechanics in order to make sure the players didn't...
Oh my god, it's so stupid. I don't know what they were thinking with that. Like, who the fuck wants that? Like, who asked? I don't understand at all. Like, it's straight up, like, it's one of the dumbest things that they're doing in Shadowlands. Like, Blizzard, I guess is what I think they don't understand, is that, like, it's not just casual, or, like, these, like, super hardcore players that want to min-max. Like, it's also casual players that just want to try different cool things to switch up the game and keep it fresh. Like, there's always this, like, weird fucking conversation that's going on about, oh, well, we can't let the hardcore players do that, or then they're going to be able to get too much Azerite power. It's like, for one, who cares? And two, it's like, oh, then they're going to have to respec between every boss. Who cares? Like, the thing is, what's so funny to me, whenever I hear people that create these things, yeah, that's the Alex Jones voice. Whenever they create these ideas, I look at their fucking armories, and you go to their Warcraft logs, and they use the same talents for every boss. Minus, like, maybe one boss. So you're literally proving yourself wrong. Like, go and read these people's, this is it. Read these people's fucking posts on the forums, and then look at their talents, and they're going to be the same. I don't give a fuck about some sweaty neckbeard that wants to play the game 18 hours a day and do 1% more damage, swapping his abilities around. This is not game breaking. But why break the game because of it? And that's what happens. I don't know why they spend so much time trying to restrict shit like this, trying to solve an imaginary problem that 300 people have. Just let people play the fucking game. That's you. It used to be. It's not anymore. Like, now I just run the same talents and go AFK. Fuck it, dude. Yeah, just like, it's like, I'm advocating not for the 1%. I'm advocating for, like, the bottom 40% of players that just want to be able to play whatever the fuck they want. What's wrong with that?
Customize their things too much. Of course, that sucks, because that's a situation where you can get a new legendary, and by the way, they actually massively buffed legendaries recently to make them more powerful, which means there's a higher chance you'll get a new Lego and actually want to change your spec.
Yeah.
Well, the new system's actually slightly more annoying for that. So yeah, there's going to be issues there. Then, of course, Blizzard, you know, they removed reforging because they didn't like you having to return to town to wear your new gear. That's what they did at the end of, was it the end of CAT or the end of MOP? The end of MOP. Well, now you might have to wait days to get your character the way that you want it, because you're waiting for energy charges to appear.
I don't know why that's a problem for them. Like, I think that's so silly. It's like, this was always the way that it used to be. Like, even in classic WoW, like, whenever you got a new piece of gear, you usually didn't put it on immediately. You usually, like, you know, re-gear your character and decide, like, okay, well, I have this much hit rating, I want to use this instead, and then I want to get the weapon enchanted. Like, you get a new weapon in the raid, and it's like, yeah, that's awesome, but you got to go and get Crusader on it first. Like, it's like, this is like an imaginary thing. When was this ever an issue? Like, investing into an item invests you into the item. Like, in Mists of Pandaria, you had, like, this fucking, like, triple upgraded gear with, like, fucking sockets and reforged, and it's gemmed, and it's enchanted. Like, it's cool. Like, that's your piece of gear. And it doesn't matter if everybody else has got the same one because they all worked for it. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like that's the one thing they shouldn't have they should have kept that more complex. I like that a lot more.
Really think that's particularly cool. I mean, waiting a few days because you got to earn more currency to buy an item, sure, that's regular gameplay. But waiting a few days for an arbitrary timer, I don't think so.
Not
also,
as fun.
build around feature risk exposure. That's what Blizzard calls these things. They call garrisons a build around feature because the expansion is built around it. Same goes for Azerite, same goes for your Legion artifact weapons, and here Covenants are
I think that also, like, that mindset that they're using about, like, building the expansion around the feature, I think it's really constricting. And I think that it makes it to where they can't actually make good decisions because they're so locked to the mindset of, we have to make the expansion conform around this idea. It's formulaic too. Like, it's just so badly designed. I don't like it.
Build around feature, but
like,
Blizzard
on a fundamental level, I don't like it.
Believes that a player who just cares about their character, what it looks like and all that stuff, that it's not enough for them to pick a Covenant based on what aesthetically appeals to them, what kind of story they like. No, Blizzard really do think there needs to be player power. And what that has done is that's increased the amount of risk in this expansion. And I would say that after years of being minorly dicked around with, I think most players now just want a pure version of WoW's mechanics.
People don't want to be dicked. Bellular's completely right. They don't want to be dicked around. Like, just don't dick us around. Like, that's why, like, they got rid of Titan Forging. I was happy. They got rid of the fucking random gems shit, and you're able to buy them with, like, the gouged eyes of N'Zoth. That's awesome. Great. Because that's Blizzard not dicking us around. Not dicking us down. Like, that's probably, like, they probably dicked you down. When was the last time Blizzard really dicked down the players? Probably WoD. WoD, they did dick us down, 100%. Because they removed all of our abilities, stat squished us. Yeah, they dicked us down there. But this is just being dicked around, which is a little bit different.
And for Blizzard to focus on making more content and more rewards.
Yeah.
And certainly if you're a casual player and you don't really care about this and you think it's a problem for the 1%ers, well, it does affect you. Because the amount of time that it's taken to fix these things, well, that's going to take away from the time it's going to take to make new content and new rewards for you. Let's talk about this for the 50th percenter. Your average player bang in the middle. Well, Shadowlands will repeat mistakes that led to a lot of top-end player frustrations in the past. Why? Well, these mistakes all stem from Blizzard learning the wrong lessons from Legion. Legion was great sometimes, but it did have many problems, and many of those were actually called out by us beta testers back then too. Legion Legendary acquisition was a humongous problem if you cared about performance or multi-specking, and the same...
It's like everybody knew it was going to be fucked up. And the funniest thing about this, look at the dislike bar on this video. There's 195 idiots. No, man, dude, it gonna be cool, man. What do you mean, dude? Man, dude, you don't understand. You don't understand, man. Like, and like that, yeah, that's so stupid. 195 dinguses. A fucking dingus, yeah. That's stupid. 197, yeah, I don't understand. Like, everybody saw this coming from a mile away. I just wish Blizzard would actually, like, listen to the players. And they have been doing this more, right? It's true. Like, you know, credit where credit's due. Blizzard's done a really good job, like, kind of reconciling a lot of things with players in Shadowlands. 100%. But, like, they've got to just see things from, like, they've got to see things before it has to happen.
Goes for parts of the artifact weapon progression. I mean, come on, they had people in Mauve Souls 3 chest runs for countless amounts of time.
Wouldn't know anything about that.
Now, Legion survived these problems, though, right? We've said so far in this video that it actually reversed the trend for WoW. Yeah. Why is that? Well,
it was fun.
It was fun for the average player who didn't care about those things. Legion had its strengths. And that's where I feel a bit better about Shadowlands, because it taps into both a few of Legion's strengths and also a few of it and BFA's weaknesses. But it absolutely does tap into the strengths of Legion, and that is a very good thing. There is quite a bit of new content to do. There are some big new systems to progress through, and there's genuine fun to be had for the cosmetic-driven players. They will have a bunch to do. Plus, it's pretty alt-friendly.
That's content for my stream, by the way.
The leveling systems will actually well, they'll really unlock a lot of allied race gameplay because it will increase its accessibility, and that will drive a lot of playtime.
That's going to be fun.
It really does feel
I'm excited for
a
that.
bit lacking, I'll say, in comparison to the quantity of some of the unlockable cosmetics that Legion had, so I'd say that Shadowlands is more a mini Legion. Blizzard will absolutely need a content schedule that is far more aggressive than BFA. They will need that.
Okay.
And now that we've went through the last 3 expansions and this one, I think it's now time to answer the prime question of this video.
Okay, what is it? Will 9.0 save WoW?
At the top of this video, we defined WoW needing to be saved as a reversal of stagnation, diminishing, or negative PR, right? Negative spin, negative sentiment. And while Classic was great for the numbers, BFA absolutely put World of Warcraft into a state of decline. I think that is obvious. Shadowlands is immediately more exciting. We've talked about so many things.
I agree with
Weekly box, Titan Forging being gone.
The lore is cooler in Shadowlands. Like, it just is. I think the lore is just way cooler in Shadowlands than it was in BFA. Like, honestly, N'Zoth is kind of a boring enemy. He's just like this primal evil. I guess the Jailer is too. But I think that the Jailer, like, because we don't know anything about him, everybody's kind of expecting there to be more to the story. But everybody knows the whole story of the old gods. There's not going to be any weird change of fate. There's not going to be anything else crazy. There's just N'Zoth is a fucking asshole and we got to get rid of him. Like, that's all there is to it.
Gear is gear. There are cosmetics to chase after. Blizzard has genuinely learned a bunch of lessons on player agency and alt-friendliness.
I agree.
Covenant power is still a problem, yes, but hey, Legion grew WoW even though it had severe problems at the top end.
Did.
Shadowlands, I'd say, fights with you less than BFA did, and that is a big thing.
That's
and
a good way to
leveling,
put
that
it.
cannot be
I like
overstated.
that a lot. I completely
Here's the thing
agree.
I haven't said thus far. The leveling changes will alone, what they will do is they will increase World of Warcraft's new player conversion rate. And this improves World of Warcraft's unit economics. And yet, we're going to treat WoW like, I don't know, it's the business model of a SaaS platform. That's a bit of a weird thing to do, but it actually does matter for companies like Blizz. And this is why we need to talk about World of Warcraft's unit economics. This is the sort of thing that's not talked about.
What gets people to buy the game? I'll tell you what gets people to buy the fucking game is if the game's good. Like, if the game's good, you know what? What is the strongest form of marketing? I'll tell you what the strongest form of marketing is. Word of mouth. If you watch an advertisement, you think, oh, that guy's paid to tell me the game's good. But if your friend tells you the game's good, your friend's not getting paid by Blizzard. Your friend's not getting paid by Activision or whoever the fuck. They're just there. And so if they tell you it's good, you already trust your friend because it's your friend. And on top of that, they don't have a vested interest in you playing the game, right? They just want you to be happy. They want you to maybe play the game with them, right? Or something like that. But for the most part, they don't have the same financial interest in you playing the game. And that's why word of mouth is so important. All of my friends that play WoW, almost every single one of them, I got them into the game. And you know how I got them into the game? I said, listen, Jeff, listen, Zach. Zach got me into the game, actually. And like, how did he get me into the game? I saw advertisements, but Zach was like, this game's really fucking badass. We should play it. And now that I have my friend tell me that, I go and I do it. I said, Jeff, come play this game, dude. It's awesome. Cody, come play this game, dude. It's awesome. Dylan, come play this game, dude. It's awesome. Austin, come play this game, dude. It's awesome. And like, these are all my friends. I got them in playing WoW. And Eric, you know, I got Eric into playing the game too. And it was, the reason for that is because I sold them the game, right? I was like, this is not sold them literally, right? But like sold them the idea of playing the game. And they trust that. So word of mouth and having your friends get you to want to play the game again is so important. There's a lot of times that people come back to the game because their friends are coming back to the game. That's what makes expansion releases so exciting, because people's friends are playing.
Enough, but it matters massively. It's the kind of spreadsheety bean counting that us as players who talk about,
and having a good game makes people do that.
Actually playing the game that we don't really run into, but it matters, right?
Yeah.
What is unit economics? Well, to basically explain this to you, okay? Blizzard spends money on advertising. The more players that they can get who actually stick with the game per dollar of advertising spent, the better, right?
Yes.
Now, if the new player experience and the leveling process of World of Warcraft is better, then that will mean that Blizzard's cost to get one retained player into World of Warcraft will decrease. And that's basically the thing. Companies like Blizzard pump absolute masses of money into marketing, and this leveling change alone totally changes the game there. So with all that said, will it save WoW? Well, if by
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, they pump a lot of money into advertising. They want people to play the game. Here's the way I look at it, is that, yes, of course, the more advertisements that they have in the game, the more people that are going to play the game. But Bellular is right. It doesn't matter how many people start playing the game if they quit. You can't let them quit.
We mean reverse a decline, reverse a stagnation, then I'm going to say partially. I think it's going to move it in the right direction. I'll tell you that much. Top-end World of Warcraft will still suffer. But in fairness, those guys have suffered in some way since Legion, right? So that's still going to happen. But there's a bit of a difference. There's fun, aspirational stuff to do outside of that.
That's our team, boys.
For those who don't care about that top-end player stuff, yeah, I think that this genuinely will be a superior experience to Battle for Azeroth. Of course, save bugs, problems, things that arise at launch that I obviously cannot predict right now, even though the beta is pretty buggy at times. I mean, for me, Torghast, that's a game within a game. That is reason enough to get into this expansion, especially...
Dude, I actually think Torghast has so much potential. I think Torghast has equal potential with Mythic Plus, and it has equal potential with Arena. Like, Torghast has so much potential, and we'll see what happens. But I think that it really does. Like, I know you guys are thinking that I'm crazy, but here's the thing. I think that it has potential. That doesn't mean that I think that it's already there. I think that it can get there. It absolutely can fucking get there, man.
Because I know that I can get loads more characters up, and that each one of those characters, when it goes into Torghast, will get a whole unique set of cool things to do. That's pretty damn exciting. That's going to drive a lot of gameplay, at least for people like me. And then, of course, what I said about the new player experience, increasing the effectiveness of Blizzard's marketing spend, that cannot be overstated. This is vital. You will not see it that much, but I think it will just be sitting there silently going boom and really growing the base end of the game. So
I agree.
If 10.0 can repeat the wins of Shadowlands, right? The wins of Legion, the expansion after this one, and then if it can avoid borrowed power-related missteps, which Blizzard surely must be feeling at this stage because they designed themselves into so many holes that they ended up having to delay the expansion to get things right. They know they made mistakes internally. Absolutely, they must have.
I would 100%
So because of all that, if we've got a 10.0 that actually doubles down on the wins we've seen so far in 9.0, but moves away from the obvious issues, then we could be in a far better situation. For now, though, borrowed power mistakes have actually occurred. That does suck, but outside of that, Blizzard are doing a better job with content in World of Warcraft than they were during Battle for Azeroth. So, I think it is going to reverse the trends that we have been seeing. And to people who care about playing World of Warcraft with their friends and that fun experience they've had in their life for a whole bunch of time, people who care about that actually continuing, I think you're moving in a better direction with this one. I think we really are. There you go. That's what I think is basically going on here. Yeah, you know, if... I don't think this is as good as Legion.
Agree.
I think it won't be as fun as Legion for a whole bunch of people. But I think it's going to be...
I will get the preach video after this.
So, there you go. By the definition I said at the start of this video, that is kind of saving WoW. That's reversing stagnation.
I would agree.
And that's the thing that's going to matter to Blizzard, because they need to get this right. And if by the time these sort of classic, it's like a shot of steroids, TBC, Wrath, by the time that those run out, if Blizzard can manage to keep on doubling down on the strengths that we've noticed in Legion and a little bit in Shadowlands, and then they move away from those downsides, then we could be in a genuinely incredible space. I do think it's sad that it's taken this team so long to learn lessons that people have basically been preaching to them for 5 years now. But that's where we are. Okay.
It's obvious that the Blizzard team is very, very recalcitrant, and recalcitrant's that's a big word, you know, but like it's very hard for them to learn lessons and actually learn things from the player base because they think that the player base is wrong all of the time. They're very stubborn. Okay, they don't want to do things that, you know, other people tell them to do. They want to do what they want to do, and I don't understand why it's taken so long either, but I'm just glad that things are kind of changing and going in the right direction.
That's it. That's my thoughts from all of my time analyzing World of Warcraft and, of course, being in the Shadowlands beta. Tell me what you think. If you're a beta tester, I absolutely want to know where you think this one's going to be sort of going. So thank you very much for watching. And with that said, I will see you next time.
So we'll watch the Preach video. I'm going to look at the comments of this. What do you guys think? Like, do you guys think Shadowlands is going to be better than BFA? I think that it will be. Like, I really do think that it will be better. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I think a lot of people are saying yes. Okay, well, that's good, man. That's very good. I think it will be as well. I certainly hope so. Let me read the rest of these comments here. Do not forget, Battle for Azeroth destroyed PvP gearing with the by far worst system. Shadowlands is not looking much better. Yes, there's vendors again, but the fundamental problem is staying. Do you want a PvP? Then do 100 times more PvE to gear up and not be destroyed easily. Yeah, they need a PvP stat, man. Like, Blizzard needs to just do that and just fucking get it out of the way. Heroes to leave Azeroth for Shadowlands. Azeroth thought, hey guys, there's still a giant fucking sword sticking out of me, guys. Yeah, it's about right. I think people just kind of forgot about that. Blizzard's corporate motto for some years has been, if it ain't broke, break it. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. That's pretty funny, man. Okay, let's see here. Where's the rest of it? As long as it's not a complete disaster, flashes Nathanos on screen. Well, that's not really a big deal. I think Nathanos is going to die. Power has got to go, plain and simple. As a PvPer, I'm stuck with a covenant that I would never have chosen if not for the ability for others. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's also really bad, too. I, like a lot of other people who have been playing for a long time, we've all heard this before, but at this point, I don't think it even matters what expansion pack it is. It's going to bring back huge numbers. People will think one patch is okay. It has problems. Patch 2 will have lower pop, but many will fix the issues with patch 1. Patch 3 will have the lowest population, and people will be mostly upset during this patch. Assuming patch 4 is the last, it will bring back decent numbers, similar to patch 2. Well, that's fucking too cynically realistic and depressing. People will say the expansion is okay, but had problems, and be excited for these problems to be addressed in the future. WoW is what it is. It's going to be around for many years to come, and the cycle of enthusiasm, contentment, and disillusionment, followed by a renewed sense of hope for the future, will continue for the entire lifespan of WoW until we get to the end, and all that is left is disillusionment and nostalgia. Well, that's fucking depressing. That's really fucking depressing. Like, I feel like you should ban somebody for being that real. Like, somebody should probably get banned for being that real. Like, how is that even possible to be that fucking real, man? Like, come on.